Welcome to the Explainer. So, I want you to imagine stepping into this sort of 16-bit retro laboratory. Picture screens everywhere, glowing with streams of digital data. But instead of computer software, we're actually looking at the human genome. Pretty wild, right? Today we're exploring genetic mutations, but not as medical anomalies. No, we're looking at them as real-life character stats that can literally be buffed or nerfed. The human source code is beautifully complex, and occasionally it produces traits that honestly seem to belong straight in the pages of a graphic novel.
Okay, let's dive into this. We've all grown up with stories of radioactive spiders, cosmic rays, mysterious super serums granting extraordinary abilities. But the thing is, nature doesn't actually need a comic book origin story to create a superhuman. The incredible reality is that we really don't need radiation to get superpowers. We just need specific, incredibly rare tweaks to our DNA. So today, we're going to look at 10 jaw-dropping times human genetics threw the rulebook completely out the window.
But before we get to the actual powers, let's quickly define what a mutation actually is. You kind of have to forget the sci-fi magic you're used to. In the real world, mutations are simply biological code updates. They're alterations in specific genes, like NTRK1 or DK2, that can drastically alter human capabilities. But as we'll see throughout this explainer, these extreme physiological abilities always come as a double-edged sword. Because, well, every superpower has its kryptonite.
Section 1. Invulnerability and super strength. Let's look at some upgraded physical stats. First up, absolute invulnerability to pain. The condition is called CIPA, and it's caused by a mutation in the NTRK1 gene. This gene normally helps develop sensory neurons, but with this specific mutation, the pain signals simply never arrive at the brain. Now, I know it sounds like amazing invulnerability, but the reality is actually really harsh. See, pain is your body's alarm system. Without it, patients suffer from accidental self-mutilation. They experience severe overheating because they literally can't sweat, and they get something called Charcot joints, which is severe bone and joint destruction from just walking around on unseen fractures. It requires constant, lifelong medical vigilance.
Next is literal super strength, driven by the MSTN mutation. This gene produces myostatin, which is basically a protein that tells your muscles when to stop growing. If you have myostatin-related muscle hypertrophy, that limiter is completely removed. The result? Up to double the normal muscle mass and significantly reduced body fat, straight from birth. But the drawback here is super fascinating. While you look like an absolute bodybuilder, the increases in actual functional strength don't always perfectly match the massive physical bulk. So it's a literal genetic buff to your aesthetics and size, but the power output doesn't scale exactly 1-to-1.
Our third physical trait is the absolute elimination of fear, courtesy of an extremely rare genetic disorder called Urbach-Wight disease. To give you an idea of how incredibly rare this is, there are only about 300 known cases worldwide. People with this condition literally do not experience the physiological sensation of fear. But think about it. Without fear, which is a crucial evolutionary survival instinct, these individuals can easily find themselves in life-threatening situations. Why? Because their brain simply doesn't tell them to run away.
Section 2. The limitless cognitive mind. Time for some mental upgrades.
You know, trying to mentally model how those branching statistics and global probabilities play out is essentially a massive, high-stakes math problem. And if you want to build the kind of analytical thinking to actually decode global data like this, you should absolutely check out Mathix. It teaches math in this incredibly fun, practical, and well-structured way. You get AI-powered support whenever you're stuck, an awesome active community section, and a really slick statistics dashboard to track your step-by-step progress. It totally takes the stress out of dealing with complex numbers. The link is right down in the description to get started.
Now, what's really interesting about this next condition is the sheer weight of total recall. It's staggering. Hyperthymesia, or highly superior autobiographical memory, allows individuals to remember virtually every single day of their lives in vivid, uncontrollable detail. Jill Price, the first diagnosed case, described her memory as a continuous movie just running in her head. But the reality? It's an exhausting, split-screen mind. Imagine trying to talk to a friend while simultaneously, against your will, reliving a vivid Tuesday from 20 years ago. Plus, the inability to let go of and forget painful, traumatic events makes this superpower an incredibly heavy burden to bear.
Our next cognitive superpower is savant syndrome. This is a state of extreme cognitive mastery that usually appears alongside developmental disorders like autism. Think of this kind of like taking all of your character's skill points in a video game and dumping them into one highly specialized skill tree, completely ignoring everything else. When it comes to music and art, savants can exhibit immediate mastery. We're talking about replicating complex musical pieces flawlessly after hearing them just once, or drawing sweeping, highly detailed cityscapes purely from memory. In math and spatial reasoning, their brains process information at superhuman speeds. This allows for lightning-fast calendar calculations and the construction of perfect 3D models. It is an unbelievable, hyper-focused talent that science is honestly still trying to fully wrap its head around.
So the crucial point is that not all mental powers are about raw processing data. Some are purely about efficiency. The DEC2 gene mutation creates what science calls natural short sleepers. People with this mutation can function optimally, and I mean completely optimally, on just 4 to 6 hours of sleep a night. They gain extra waking hours, enhanced resistance to stress, and potentially an extended health span, completely avoiding the usual cognitive decline you'd get from sleep deprivation. The only real drawback, you are completely out of sync with the normal sleeping world. You're wide awake and ready to go while everyone else is fast asleep.
Section 3. Supreme Environmental Adaptations. How the Body Survives the Extreme.
Take a look at the EPAS1 mutation, which is highly prevalent in Tibetan populations. At 4,000 meters above sea level, there is 40% less oxygen in the air. For normal humans, this triggers severe altitude sickness, literally forcing the body to dangerously overproduce red blood cells just to try and survive. But the EPAS1 mutation is a fast-evolving adaptation that optimizes oxygen metabolism. It allows Tibetans to effortlessly thrive and maintain peak physical endurance at these incredibly high altitudes, without the thick, clot-prone blood that plagues normal humans in these zones.
Then, we have the absolute indifference to extreme cold. While most people would suffer severe hypothermia and freezing conditions, certain individuals possess a genetic and physiological resistance to freezing environments that absolutely pushes the known limits of the human body. A vivid, real-life example of this is Wim Hof. He's a man whose ability to submerge himself in ice and endure freezing temperatures for extended periods constantly baffles the medical community. It's an environmental adaptation that seriously seems to rewrite the rules of human thermoregulation.
Section 4. Sensory Masterclass and Immunity. Let's explore some internal superpowers.
And this brilliantly illustrates the idea of a microscopic force field. The CCR5 delta 32 mutation acts as the ultimate shield, right on the surface of your white blood cells. This specific genetic tweak alters a receptor, and because that receptor is missing a key piece, the HIV virus literally cannot lock onto and infect the host T cells. It acts as a flawless, natural cellular shield against one of the most notorious viruses in human history.
Let's look a little closer at the reality of CCR5. Not only does it provide resistance to HIV, but historically, it's also been associated with resistance to the bubonic plague. It is perhaps the perfect mutation, but the drawback comes when humans try to play God. Back in 2012, gene editing technology like CRISPR made it possible to actually alter embryos. A scientist named He Jiankui controversially edited the CCR5 gene into human twins to make them immune to HIV. This sparked massive ethical debates, because artificially editing the human germline carries entirely unknown long-term evolutionary risks for our species.
Let's move to and see how this builds into the visual spectrum. So, most humans have 3 types of color-detecting cones in their eyes. Tetrachromats have a 4th. Because of the OPN1-MW2 gene duplication, these individuals can perceive a massive, expanded spectrum of color. We're talking about seeing up to 100 million different shades, compared to the usual 1 million. They experience the world as a vibrant, living kaleidoscope of colors that the rest of us simply cannot see.
But the reality of tetrachromacy contains this incredible genetic irony. This superhuman color vision is almost exclusively biologically possible in females. Why? Well, because the mutated gene that grants this 4th cone is located on the X chromosome, and it's the exact same gene anomaly that causes red-green color blindness in men. Women having 2 X chromosomes can carry the normal color genes on one and the mutant colorblind gene on the other. This results in a biological stacking effect that literally creates superhuman vision.
Section 5. Choose your power.
We've seen how these 10 extraordinary conditions, from unbreakable bones to perfect memory, from high-altitude endurance to superhuman vision, prove that the human source code is beautifully, wildly complex. So we want to leave you with this final provocative thought. If you had to choose to activate just one of these genetic conditions in your own source code, which would you pick, and why? Let us know your choice down in the comments, and hey, make sure you subscribe to the Zero Facts channel for more incredible explainers just like this one, and please leave a like on this explainer if you enjoyed the breakdown. Until next time, keep exploring the code.